Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Real TC Plays Gunner Heat PC. This video is about why I think tank crews should buy this game. So, the two issues that most gunners and tank commanders have at gunnery and while in force training, and probably in real life, is scanning and tracking. Now, what do I mean by scanning? Most gunners, they'll sit there and they'll scan like this, really, really slow. And they take forever to find the target. So let's say, for example, that truck target and that PC target are your engagements for an actual gunnery range. They're going to be sitting there and they'll be scanning nice and slow. They'll go, identified truck. Got index coax. Identified truck, coax indexed, 400, fire and adjust, on the way. Target, ceasefire. And they'll sit there and they'll stare at the target to make sure that they killed it, rather than go back to scanning immediately once they have put rounds on target. Find the next one. Identified PC, 400, fire and adjust, on the way, boom, lost. But then again, the gunner will sit there instead of coming back to 3 power and going back to scanning. So how it should be would be identified truck, 400, fire and adjust, on the way, target, identified PC, 400, fire and adjust, on the way, lost, whichever back. And it's the instantaneous going from engaging a target to, you killed it, to the next one. See the time difference between those three? I sped it up each time. That's for scanning aspect. A lot of what you're supposed to do in gunnery and in this game and in Warthunder and any tank game, so to speak, is you got to scan really hard, because you can only see a little bit of the entire battlefield through your optics. So you got to scan the whole thing. The other thing a lot of people screw up on is tracking. Now, what do I mean by tracking? So we have this PC target right here. Most people suck at tracking because they'll sit there and be like, oh, I got it, and then track it like shit. And they miss because they didn't track it right. Even though this is an M1, it still applies on the M1A1 and the M1A2. The thing on the A2 is if you don't get the track right, and you're not really going to know if you get the track right, because you could be on target. If the target will move consistently, and at the last second, they'll add a little bit more lead, and they are missing. I'll go over the T64 because it has... The T64 Bravo and the T80 Bravo both have fire control systems similar to the A2. So, tracking the target nice and smooth, lays it, on the way. And see right there, I didn't track it right. And a lot of gunners will do that, tank commanders as well. Both of them have the same problems. Wait for the tank target to come back. A lot of gunners they really suck at tracking. Vertical center mass, lays it. And since the A2 has a better fire control system than the A1, you can correct your track very easily. Boom, we nailed it. Nice and easy. But most gunners, they really struggle with a moving target tracking. Or if the target is stationary and the tank is moving, a lot of gunners also struggle with that one. The other aspect of this game, to where I think most tank crews should buy it, is the positioning. One of the boulder limit missions that I did, or the first one that I posted, I was moving around a lot to break contact visually with the enemy targets. So that way they couldn't hit me, so I could restock and come back up and nail a few more targets, come back, restock, go back up. That's one thing that really helps understanding how tank on tank or force on force training really should be. NTC is like that. Any force on force training you do at your duty station in the U.S., so Fort Stewart, Fort Bliss, Fort Hood, Fort Riley, Benning, Irwin, Fort Carson. When you do force on force, you're meant to be practicing positioning. But most people don't understand how to do that. It's kind of one of those things to where you have to really think about what you're doing and put the tank in the best position possible to do the maximum amount of damage to the enemy while minimizing the damage to either your tank platoon, or your tank company, or maybe even your battalion. A lot of people struggle with that. Another nice part about this game is that it's pretty much one hit kill if you penetrate. You penetrate the armor, it is a one hit kill, versus World of Tanks and Warthunder. You put multiple main gun rounds in the tank, it takes forever to kill everything, and it's just annoying. You have to know exactly where the ammo's at or the fuel's at to kill a target. Versus in this game, and Steel Beasts, if you have a penetrating round to the enemy target, it's probably knocked out. Maybe not burning, but it's probably knocked out. It makes it a lot more realistic, so to speak, because if you're in a tank and it took a penetrating round to its armor, you're probably going to get out of it. Because all the spall and the fragments, it's going to destroy all electronics, probably set it on fire, and so you're just going to get out of it and definitely leave the area as fast as you can on foot, assuming the tank isn't mobile, but most likely you're probably going to get out of it because it's turning into a death trap. That's one thing that a lot of these less realistic war games get wrong, like War Thunder and World of Tanks, to where the round penetrates the armor and it damages the health of the tank, but it doesn't really damage anything inside. Versus anytime any hit goes to the armor, it's damaging a whole bunch of stuff because fragments are thrown everywhere. I don't care what anyone says if they think War Thunder is realistic. It is not. Even on the super simulator mode, it's not. Just because, number one, you don't have the proper gun sights for all the vehicles. You don't have the proper stabilization systems for the vehicles or fire control. It's just a simple reticle, and whether it has stabilization or not. That's really it on War Thunder. You don't have lead, you don't have cant, you don't have any of those other inputs that you have in Gunner Heat PC and Steel Beasts. Now, not to dog on Steel Beasts, just from a money aspect, I don't think Steel Beasts is worth it. Just because it's $100, and while it's extremely realistic and set up perfectly, it's too much like either SimNet or AGTS. And SimNet is where you can have the whole tank crew in there, and you're shooting virtual main gun rounds, and everyone's doing what they're supposed to. AGTS is the Advanced Gunnery Training Simulator, and all that is a gunner and tank commander practicing fire commands and putting virtual steel on target. That's why I don't like Steel Beasts. The cost, the amount of people you have to have in the tank virtually, well, it's very well thought out and very well set up. I don't recommend it for most people. It's just, it goes too far into the little details that for training purposes don't really matter. Gunner Heat PC, it gets the track right. It gets your scanning right. It teaches you that. It teaches you positioning. It teaches you how to use fire commands. Well, not really use. It teaches you the understanding of how fire commands work. Even though it's not perfect, it's pretty close. It's still very well done, and it sounds good. And they also did a very good job with it, I will say that. Wish they had more tank crews for the Americans. I'll admit, for the Soviets and the East Germans, I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever. But the American stuff, to me, is the more interesting ones. Just because it is... I'm an American tank, or was an American tanker, so now the American stuff I like a lot more. So a couple things they do get wrong when it comes to fire commands. Okay. So we'll do one. Alright, we'll back down. We'll do a quick defensive engagement. There we go. Alright, so we are what's considered hull down. Pretty close to turret down. Alright, we'll pick that tank target. So it'd be gunner disable tank. Identify tank 2100. The loader would arm the gun with up. Driver move up, fire and adjust. The driver comes up, and the gunner stays on target. And stops on the way. Lost. Driver back. Because once you fire the main gun, you don't see anything. Because a giant dust cloud on most tanks. But that's my rant on why I think most tank crews should buy Gunner Heat PC, just because of how many things they get right. You got your fire commands that are about 80% there. You have positioning, you have scanning, you have tracking. It just gets everything all together in a very nice, simple, affordable package. Thanks for watching.